have 2 artists as part of this exhibition. We will have an emerging artist exhibition yearly. This is our first annual exhibition, so congratulations to Olivia and Rose for being selected this year. If you want to see who will be featured next year, you can look on our website on the gallery page. We do have the 2026 exhibition series for visual arts out on our website right now. I'm going to start by introducing Olivia Hoppe. So she has done the gourd work, a lot of the natural work. So she has this section of the gallery and then the wall of fish and a little bit of work over here. So she is currently living in Miltona, Minnesota. So both of our artists have had a little bit of a drive today. You could say that she's a self-taught artist. She learned a lot from her dad, who also did some craft work. She took classes in high school and a little at community college, and she focuses on sourcing all of her materials and repurposing and reusing materials. So you'll notice that she uses gourds, she uses bones, she uses wood pieces, and she even, I'm hoping she'll describe how she did this for you, but she even uses wasp paper made from wasp nests, and usually uses acrylic ink or paint on those items. So I'm sure you've gotten to see some of them already. Olivia, if you would just like to come up and share a little bit about your process, and she has an example for us as well. So if you want to welcome Olivia up.
I try to use the materials that I can find or forage for or grow. Like I grow most of the gourds I use. Oh, not used to talking in front of people. But like I start with a pencil sketch, and then I use pen and ink drawing, dip the pen in the ink and then draw it on, and then I water down acrylic paint. And then I layer that on. This will be over there if anybody wants to pick it up. But go from black all the way around to the white. Then the wasp nest paper, find them around the farm and take them apart. Kind of layers of paper. And then use collage adhesive on the back and lay them down watercolor paper. And a couple layers of clear gesso just to kind of help prime it and stiffen it up a little bit. Otherwise it's like trying to draw on tissue paper and that doesn't work so well. But then that'd be pen and ink drawing with acrylic paint or not acrylic paint, colored pencil. A little nervous. It's fun.
Thanks, Olivia. And if you have questions about her process, you can ask her afterwards. Also, she does have a Facebook where she documents some of her process, and she has a chicken that is very interested in all of her work when she works outside. So a friend to work with her. Thanks, Olivia. is a recent graduate from Gustavus. She actually had 2 majors, studio arts and environmental studies. And you may see those kind of work together in her pieces. So her work is both ceramics and then some additional, but if you notice from here on, you'll see a lot of her ceramics featuring organic shapes and natural colors, and then she has the ceramic pieces on that wall. I'm sure you've had a chance to take a look at them. So if Rose, you would like to come up and share a little bit about your process or inspiration, that would be wonderful.
Hello, I'm Rose. Thank you for coming. I would say my process starts obviously with inspiration. So I get my inspiration from photos I've taken. That's the first step where my environmental studies degree kind of came in. I would take a lot of field trips, labs for my science classes, and we would be out in prairies, wetlands and whatnot, and I would take photos of different shapes, different insects, anything I found interesting, and that was the main inspiration for everything. And let's see, then I would go on to planning, and I'm not a big planner. I'd kind of do like a little sketch, and if I think it kind of fit into what I was focusing on, I would just start doing. And let's see, while I was making things, I do mostly hand-built ceramics, so nothing on the wheel. But while I create, I like to have someone in the studio with me. So I'd have roommates and friends in college coming to the studio with me. They would do homework and sit with me for hours. Otherwise, if I don't have a friend accompanying me, I listen to podcasts and sometimes a little bit of music. But yeah, I have a mixture of ceramics and drawings, and yeah. Is there any other questions for me right off the bat, I guess? Otherwise, I'll be here all night. Good? Thank you.
So, thank you so much for coming this evening. Emerging artists are artists that are kind of beginning to be noticed for their work. So both Olivia and Rose have had their art featured a couple of other places, but expect to see them around the region and maybe beyond sometime soon. If you have any questions for them or for me, go ahead and approach us later, but otherwise thank you so much for coming, and you can stay and enjoy the art. Thank you.